Okay, so we are picking up with Sebastian Shaw getting his just desserts. Okay, so in the aftermath of the previous video, right, like Kitty Pryde has basically been returned and all that kind of good stuff. And so what this does is it initially picks up with Bishop, right, with the idea of him grabbing that little vine that was on Kitty Pryde's legs, and he actually calls a private meeting with Storm, right? Now the whole conversation here is really him just kind of saying, look, I found this vine. As far as I'm aware, there's only one place this vine grows, and that's when Storm's like, yes, it grows here on Krakoa near a sleepy knoll within the walking distance of Hellfire Bay. She says they grow as fast as Quicksilver. And so that's when literally just Bishop asked the question outright, I should have known you already knew, so what? Because he's on the Quiet Council, the Black King just gets away with it? And the response of Storm is no. So at this point, everybody basically knows that Sebastian Shaw is behind it. Now, how it is that Bishop picked up on that is not in the same way that Emma Frost did, but at the end of the day, all roads lead to the same place. And so what you end up getting here is basically Kitty Pryde and Emma showing up on the doorstep of Sebastian Shaw while he's drinking a glass of his whiskey. Now here's the thing, Sebastian Shaw and his whiskey, man, everybody's got a vice, right? Everybody has that one thing that either they're really good at or they really love or something like that. With Sebastian Shaw, it's whiskey, right? This guy's all about his whiskey, so much so that in fact, there's whiskey made in Krakoa that you cannot get anywhere else. And it was only brewed once for Sebastian Shaw. So it doesn't exist anymore. It's like in this one bottle, and that's all there is to it. Now, of course, you hear this great big huge knock on the door, right? It says boom, boom, boom. And then he gets up, finally answers it, and then just like, BOW! He gets the old 1-2 from Kitty Pryde, right? And so from that point, it's just crushing, man. It's just, this guy gets wrecked. Like literally, Kitty Pryde comes walking in with Emma Frost, and his first thought is like, you've blundered the whole beginning of this negotiation. Like, do you not recall my mutant gift? I master kinetic energy. Now, that is true. The power of Sebastian Shaw is that literally whatever doesn't kill him makes him stronger. So say for example, the Juggernaut were to run up on Sebastian Shaw and punch him, and by some miracle didn't punch a hole through him. He would absorb all that energy into himself and turn it into kinetic energy. If he was blasted by Cyclops' optic beams, he would absorb that and turn it into physical strength. Every kind of energy that he can possibly absorb gets turned into a physical strength. The more he absorbs, the stronger he gets. But that doesn't matter, because remember, Emma Frost has the gun that neutralizes mutant powers and fires it at Sebastian Shaw and shuts down his powers. After that, Kitty Pryde just starts going in, right? Just starts beating the crap out of this guy. Now, following that, he's totally flabbergasted by the fact that his powers are gone. And then literally Kitty Pryde's like, nice collection, man. This whiskey you have, like, this is a nice collection, right? And he's like, no, dear God, no, right? And he's like, that's a bottle of Port Ellen, bottled to celebrate the Queen's visit to the distillery in 1980. It's priceless. And like Kitty Pryde's like, you know, I've been working on an impression. She drinks a little bit of it and then sprays it into the fire, right? And says like she's Lockheed, something goofy, and then throws the whole bottle into the fire and just starts trashing his whiskey collection, right? It's torture for this guy. Starts destroying all his stuff. Like literally some of these whiskeys are just absolutely priceless, right? And so following that, he's like, fine. He's like, I don't need my powers to take you out, right? And then she literally just, bam, incapacitates him in one shot. And then from there, Emma Frost is like, okay, so you betrayed a member of the Quiet Council in Krakoa for your own ends. You sold her out to the Verendi in order to put your son in her place. You literally traded Krakoan medicines to the Verendi, who in turn were going to poison those medicines and then release them back to us, albeit secretly, and try to kill us from within. It was a pathetic plan, but it was a plan that you helped to orchestrate nonetheless. And so she's like, you have an option here. There's two things we can do. Your treacheries will be revealed to the Quiet Council. We'll deliberate your fate for less time than we discuss our meal orders from the Saucier. Then you'll be exiled beside Sabretooth for all eternity. Or you may wish to make amends to myself and to Kitty Pryde and make your transgressions a private Hellfire matter that the Quiet Council doesn't really need to know about. So which one is it? Do you want it to be a public adjudication or a private matter? And then immediately he bails. He's like, I choose neither, and just runs, right? Tries to get out of there as fast as he can. And so Emma sends Kitty Pryde after him. He goes diving out of a window, lands on the ground, smashes in front of Blob, right? One of the new mutants. And he's like, Blob's like, Shaw, are you okay? And then Kitty Pryde comes out. She's like, hey, Glob, you saw nothing and you heard nothing, and drags his ass back into the building. Which the world would go round a great deal faster if everybody just minded their own business. And that's what Glob does, because Glob has his own business to mind. He doesn't need to mind Kitty Pryde's business, so he goes back and minds his own business, which is a genius idea. More people should do that. And so following that, they literally throw him back into the place, and there's no getting away from it. Now at this point, it's just like, it's literally him bargaining, right? Like it's just the the 5 stages of death or whatever it is, like acceptance and all that kind of stuff, denial, so on and so forth. Like he's at the bargaining stage now, right? He's like, you guys should thank me, right? And the question is like, why in the world would we thank you here? And the response he gives is actually kind of an intriguing one, right? He says like, now you know you're a real mutant. We didn't know that before. And that's an accurate statement. Remember, when Krakoa first came into existence and the only way in or out of the nation by any real means was using the Krakoan gates, that Kitty Pryde couldn't pass through them. And so the initial indication was that she was not a mutant. Now, Marvel actually played on that for a little while. And even now, to a degree, we still don't know exactly why that's the case. But the idea is that he says like, you know you're a mutant now, right? Like I freed you, right? I've made you better than you were before, right? He says Apocalypse may be gone, but his philosophies remain, right? Because again, this takes place after the Ten of Swords event. And he says, I hope you understand why I did what I did, and I humbly ask you to forgive me, right? And so that's when Kitty Pryde says, okay, hold that thought just one second, dude, because I'm not the only one that wanted to see this. So remember, Storm was a mentor for Kitty Pryde, and in fact, she was really more of a mother figure than anything else. A lot of you guys may be too young to remember those stories, but back in the early Chris Claremont days, when Kitty Pryde was first brought onto the X-Men team, she was young. What was she, something like 15 years old, like 14 or 15 years old when she was brought onto the X-Men or introduced to the X-Men? She was basically kind of like the cheerleader to a degree. She didn't go on like the super dangerous missions, but she was kind of like the audience stand-in. It was sort of Chris Claremont's way of bringing in a really young member of the team and then having them grow up with the team, kind of adding that sort of dynamic. But Storm took Kitty Pryde under her wing and basically taught her everything she needed to know on how to become a woman. So she's very much like a mother to Kitty Pryde. And so Sebastian Shaw basically killed the daughter of Storm. And she's pissed. She's like, I wanted to witness this, right? The revenge here, this is to be had by Kitty Pryde. It's not my place to take revenge in her name. She's getting it on her own big time. But Lockheed's also kind of pissed. So Lockheed, literally the pet dragon of Kitty Pryde, rips out the eye of Sebastian Shaw and spits it in the fire. And then in turn, the response of Kitty Pryde is, all right, look, you know, let's call it a day. I propose a toast, right? Here's some medicine for you. It'll make you feel better, you know? And then Shaw says very well, I know we had our debaucherous times at Hellfire, but don't you think my punishment was a tad excessive? And the response of Emma Frost is, Sebastian, the Black Bishop will now serve the countries that recognize our sovereignty. The Red Queen will now service the black market, and the dragon taking your eye is not your punishment. And that's when he's like, what? So basically he's lost his role in the Quiet Council that previously belonged to him, dealing with the black market. That was his thing. Now they can't trust him with it, right? So that goes to Kitty Pryde. And then basically, like, Kitty Pryde tells him, like, what you just drank was laced with the Verendi poison that they were going to release on the rest of us. If you die, right? And then Storm chimes in and says, if you die, you go to Resurrection Protocols, and I'll make sure you stay there for a very, very long time. And then Emma Frost says, Krakoa will see my sister Cordelia restored before you return to us, right? Because her sister was just a really, really terrible person, and that's never gonna happen. And then he's told, should you survive the poison, you will live within your broken body until such time that Aurora, Catherine, and I agree that you be healed or put through resurrection. And then in turn, Kitty Pryde gives him an eye patch. Now, Emma Frost is like, you carry an eye patch around? Yeah, man, because she's trying to be a pirate, dude. Like, let her do her thing. I mean, if I were her, I'd probably do the same thing. I'd be like, I might need it at some point in time, if for no other reason than to just look really menacing, right? Because let's be honest, man, Kitty Pryde as a pirate is amazing. And if she had the eye patch, it would look even better. So I really hope that Jerry Dugan does that, right? I really hope he gives her an eye patch. And so following that, they all basically end up meeting at the Quiet Council the next day. And they've literally got Sebastian Shaw just in this wheelchair, right? One of Professor X's old wheelchairs. And as soon as he gets there, like, Magneto's like, shouldn't we all talk about what's happened to Sebastian Shaw? Because one, he looks like death warmed over, and two, the dude's wheelchair confined. What happened, man? You were fine yesterday, right? Is there some kind of illness or some kind of a plague? And Kitty Pryde's like, nope, unless you want to put it to a vote. And then Magneto says yes, right? So Xavier says yes, Magneto says yes, Sinister says yes, but only because he just wants to find out what happened to Sebastian Shaw. Exodus says yes because he just kind of follows the herd. Mystique's like, no, man, screw that guy. I don't give a damn what happened to him. Storm, of course, says no. Nightcrawler's like, I'm a man of God, right? You know, yada, 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 do good things. So he's like, yeah, I feel like we should know. Emma says no, and then Shaw says no, and Kitty Pryde says no. So it's like we're deadlocked. But then in turn, Sebastian Shaw chimes in and says, what happened to me is irrelevant, right? It doesn't really matter, right? So obviously the desire's there to keep this quiet so the Quiet Council doesn't know what's going on, because at the end of the day, the guy does not want to spend the rest of eternity in the hole locked up next to Sabretooth and probably turned into like Sabretooth, like, you know what'll happen. You don't need me to say it. But he says, like, my resolve is as strong as it ever was, right? So I am every ounce the member of the Quiet Council that I've always been. But at the end of the day, a message was sent. Sebastian Shaw is fully aware of his place in the bigger picture. The funny thing about this is Sebastian Shaw is nothing if not stubborn. And if anything, he didn't learn a thing. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this to an end. Thank you guys for watching. Again, we'll continue our coverage next week, or I'm sorry, tomorrow, and I will catch you all later. Peace.